Are you tired of all the uneducated noise you're getting from the droves of YOLO meme coin peddling douchebag gurus out there trying to use you as their exit liquidity? Would you rather learn a competent university level set of skills that will guide you in managing and investing for the rest of your life? Join us 3 days a week at Digital Investor. Develop your knowledge of game theory, cognitive bias, macroeconomics, monetary theory, investment theory, psychology of the crowds, and more. For more info on Digital Investor and how it can help you, reach out at nickblacknext.com.
All right. See if I've touched every button correctly. Manny, what's up? Okay, experiment day. For this office hours show, we're experimenting, and I'm seeing if this will run simultaneously on Instagram. Not that there's anybody on Instagram with more than 3 seconds worth of intellect, but you know what? We're going to give it a go. And don't say that. You guys know that's not what alpha means, Howard. Don't spread that, because idiots that don't know that you're joking start saying, hey, where's the alpha? I'm just here for the alpha. Hey, if you're here for the alpha, go fuck yourself. That doesn't mean anything. That's not the way the term is used. You can't just take words and flip them around all stupid and they mean other things. I know, Howard, I know you're joking, but some people don't know you're joking. That's not what, and by the way, if you find yourself listening to fucking gurus that are telling you, I'm just here to drop alpha, that doesn't mean anything. You can't drop alpha. Alpha is the measurement of a hedge fund's success within a fund. I'm going to give you an example because this is, a lot of people screw this up. You look at an index because you're basically comparing active versus passive management. That's what alpha actually is. It has nothing to do with like, give me the information. Information has nothing to do with alpha. Okay, if a fund manager does 12% over a year and the index in the assets that he carries or covers do 10%. He did 12, they did 10. The alpha is 2%, which is, it's another way of looking at that delta or that chasm between active management. In this case, active management was worth 2%, 200 basis points, or a 20% premium. That's what alpha is. Alpha does not mean information. Alpha does not mean cool thoughts and random shit spewed at you in a fucking NFT group on Twitter. I'm not calling it X because that's stupid too. Twitter. It's fucking Twitter. No matter how bad Elon Musk lights it on fire and destroys shareholder value, it's Twitter. Just worse. Anyway. There you go. That's it. That's all. I really don't have any rants in me. It's so great because we're in the holiday times, but there we go. We got to, everybody thank Howard. Thank Howard for the alpha rant. It's like saying, I'm here for the beta. What? I'm here for the beta. You're at a pet store? You here for some pets? Some beta fish? By the way, my friend had 2 of those fish and they were attack fish, the betas, and this is awful. He's like, I'm going to get him to fight, and then whatever's the toughest one, I'm like, he's going to do a UFC with beta fish, which is really stupid. And well, yeah, except that when you do it with shareholder money and not your own, no, you can't. And when you light it on fire and push it into bankruptcy, no, you can't. And he doesn't own anything because he bought it on leverage. Anyway, so it turns out that if you just put those fish in a tank together, they will not attack each other. If you flick the lights on and off, by the time you flick the light back on, done. Like poof, there's just like a little, you hear the water go, and you turn the light back on, and there's one fish is successful and the other one is not. This is a tough world in that fish tank, bro. It's not easy. The crypto, listen, if you're investing in the crypto space or the AI space or your stock market or bonds, or you're one of those old lazy ass index traders, whatever, your life is way easier than two beta fish in a tank in a college dorm. Your life is better. Just be happy for that, no matter how many losses you take. Okay. So we're going to talk about implementing game theory into like a 90-day strategy. I don't think there's too much housekeeping we have to do. You're going into the very quiet-ish, less liquid realm of the holidays, meaning, I mean, here in a few days, things are going to get very illiquid, and weird crap happens when things are illiquid. There's less people in the market, and if there's less people in the market, then each specific trade has more gravitas. Does that make sense? Each dollar goes further when there's less dollars in the market. It's like a deflationary dollar velocity intensifier thing over the holidays. So don't take too much from that. But what you will see, and I'm not going to go into markets too much because that's not what we do. This is more about the brain stuff. But we're over 1.6 trillion in the total crypto space. Bitcoin popped pretty heavily. We were talking yesterday, we were flirting with 41,000. It got down to about 40,500. I thought 40,000 flat was a really good entry, but apparently other people thought that a higher point was a good entry. I don't think you're going to see massive leverage right now, but you will see people putting on a bunch of leverage, a bunch of dummies putting on leverage going into next week. From the 25th, 26th to January 10th, I think things are going to get really wild in Bitcoin, and then to an extent the rest of the space, but mostly in Bitcoin. It's almost certain that we're going to get an ETF decision on Bitcoin by the 10th. I would say it's 99. Nothing's 100% because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But again, BlackRock met with the SEC and had I'll explain all this later because there's no point going into all of it. The in-kind versus cash create models for these spot Bitcoin ETFs. It really doesn't matter, but they're all going to cash create, which was a situation that the SEC felt would prevent perversions in the market, prevent malicious actors from manipulating the price. Only, on the granular scale, every single time someone buys or sells, that's manipulating the price. There's just not a nefarious look at. If I'm buying something with the assumption that it's not gone up as much as it's going to go up. If I think it's at the top, why would I buy it? There's no more. If I'm at the top, what are you buying? You're buying it to go down. Doesn't make sense. So you're either buying to cover a situation, like a short situation, and you think it's going to go up. So you're buying to cover a short, or you're buying because you believe there's more value left in it. There's more price movement left in it. You're making a forward-looking estimation. I'm buying it for $6 because I think it's going to go to 8 or whatever. Anyway, just so the Gary believes that the cash create model is better than the in-kind model. And again, we'll go into this probably later. Maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow on Digital Investor, or we'll talk about it Friday. But long story short, ARK, iShares, all of the big boys that look like they're going to get this ETF pass through on this first pass, which you want to be in the first group. They've all made this adjustment to the cash create model. So they've amended their S, and then they've got, let's see, their, was it S9? And then they'll do a 19B-4 fee form or something, a fee submission after. So if these get granted on January 10th, which it looks like a handful will, then it'll be a week or anywhere from a week to say 3 or 4 weeks where they release their fee structure, and then they'll list these assets. So that's kind of how it works. Oh, yeah. Did they launch this one yet? It's the one with the most interesting man in the world, right? I think that's what it is. I read about it, but I didn't see it yet. But anyway, the most interesting man in the world is going to be advertising for Bitcoin spot ETF, which is pretty cool, really. So this is kind of an unprecedented situation where basically the rest of the world is going to be, slowly onboarded to at least Bitcoin. That's a big deal, right? And yes, Howard said it. Gamblers going to gamble. People will take on leverage like dumbasses. That leverage will get, you can look at funding rates. If you're one of those people that wants to really nerd out, you can look at funding rates on some of these exchanges. Just Google it. What is the funding rate for Bitcoin leverage right now? And you'll see. And when it's over about 0.15, there's usually going to be an unwind. That's too much leverage. And some of these dumbass exchanges give people up to 100x leverage. So you realize that can unwind. And so what can happen is if people keep taking on leverage and the price goes up, and they take on leverage and the price goes up, and they take on leverage and the price goes up, and the price comes back 0.5%. I mean, nothing. It's up 3%, down 3% every day. In crypto, 3, 4, 5% really isn't that big of a deal. But if people take leverage, if their $1 is leveraged 100 to 1, then if there's a movement of what, 0.99, like 99 basis points, the whole thing unwinds. And as they unwind, it forces selling of those leveraged, of whatever asset they were leveraged, if it's Bitcoin. And all of those leveraged plays all unwind together. The most idiotic of the leverage, the highest leverage unwinds first, and it works its way down. Then you have people that had margin accounts, another form of leverage, 2 to 1, 4 to 1, whatever. Then those unwind. So those are two tiers. You have all the dumbasses, the gamblers, they unlever. Then you have all the people that had margin 2 to 4, which, this is safe leverage. No, it's not. No leverage is safe in the crypto space or the AI space. None, fucking zero. None of it's safe. So that unwinds. So those are two pools of unwind. Then people that were on the edge, they unwind. Anybody that borrowed anything unwinds. And so you have these cascading liquidations. Then you have people that had stop loss orders in. And so those unwinds will kind of accidentally or by design, they will come down and knock out a bunch of trailing stops, which force more selling. And so you get this kind of usually 2 to 3 day unwind cycle when the first asshole gets nuked, when the first idiot gambler, Mimi, YOLO, douchebag gets nuked. It can create this cascading unwind where a lot of people get nuked. And that's why you'll see the price go way down and you're like, oh man, what's going on? Nothing. This is a function of illiquid markets and illiquid assets on those illiquid markets and sketchy ass, mostly stupid traders that think that some backwards looking charts that it's like driving a race car in the rearview mirror. You'd say, well, that doesn't even make any sense. Yeah, except that a third of the market trades that way. This is why it's so easy to win in the crypto space. well, it's kind of easy to win in all of them, but you get the multiples in the crypto space because there's so many dumbasses that believe with religion, like faith in technical analysis, which is about 1/3 accurate. Flipping a coin is about 50%. It's not actually quite 50%. There was actually some studies done that the heads is slightly weight dominant to end up on the downside. Anyway, doesn't matter. Point is, flipping a coin is more accurate than technical analysis. On the other side of it, technical analysis is good to look backwards, like after a situation occurs, to try to wrap your mind around it and kind of go, oh, so what went down? What happened? Like to put the homicide back together. Oh, it's the husband. It's always the husband, dude. In every movie, it's always the husband. Or here's movie math. If you're watching a movie and there's one really good actor and he's not the lead, he's the bad guy. 100% movie math. That's what technical analysis is. It's really good at looking backwards and helping you put together what happened after the fact, when you have all of these disparate details that don't make sense in real time. And at least we as humans can't make investment decisions forward looking based on that. Who knows? When the robots come, we don't know what entities much smarter than us will do because they're smarter than us. And that's that. But until then, which might be 18 months, it's not that long. But until then, you still have to make some kind of fundamental analysis. You have to go to the beauty pageant that is investing, and you have to guess who the people are going to guess is the prettiest contestant. Remember, it's not the prettiest contestant that wins a beauty pageant. It's who people vote for that wins a beauty pageant. So you have to get in the mind either of the judge or the populace, and you have to front run that assumption, that you have to front run their guess or their vote. And if you do that by anywhere from 3 to 6 months, you get fucking rich. Now, keeping it is another matter. You need to understand the benefits, compound interest, and understand how to kind of move your money around, things like that. But anybody can hit. Anybody can hit if they can understand these financial systems, forget all the fundamentals for a second, and realize that there's a beauty pageant element to it. Now, the people that keep their money, the difference between people that win the lottery and then people that have wealth, is that they do understand how markets work. They understand the fundamentals of yield curves. They understand how the gears, the macro gears and the micro gears, like big E, little e, macroeconomics and microeconomics function. Micro meaning supply and demand side economics, macro meaning the large forces, the global integration and slow disintegration of how all these markets work together, and how macro factors like dollar shortages or over liquidity or all the various functions of euro dollar and other nascent currency markets, how they all affect each other. So there you go. Let's see, Nick. Based on that assumption, should crappy assets like Solana and others be in our portfolio just because? Well, that's a decision you have to make. Everybody's got to do what's best for their own portfolio all the time. Even with my private clients, which I don't do private management anymore because why? But even for them, I don't tell people what to do. I just say, listen, there is a gambler shot of XYZ asset, or that people are pushing Solana. You know that it's the same douchebags. It's the same people. I mean, you don't have to do much research. You can do a little bit of research and see the VC firms, FTX. You can see the people that push Solana. You can see the poor technology. You can see the very, very poor and borderline criminal behavior of the developers, stealing tokens and stuff like. And yes, it probably will go up, because if enough people with enough money push an asset on everyone else, it'll go up, right? It just will, because that's all people are hearing. And, oh my God, I got to get for the airdrops and the bonk and all this kind of stupid shit. I just don't choose to support teams that I know are sketchy. So me personally, there's so many assets that are quality. I don't think I need to gum up my portfolio with non-quality assets, even if it's going to go up. And then what happens when they have a network outage again? again, like the 17th network outage where the whole thing just shuts down again. And they just go, yeah, they go, because they're rich. You can't go, because your portfolio just shit the bed. So it's not so easy. And so I think that's just a kind of an idea of like, as long as you keep it in your mind, a trade versus an investment, right? And I think people should keep this should be very clear. You're always looking to invest your currency units. You traded your life for you traded moments of your life to somebody for some service or whatever. They gave you currency units back. So you said, here's some time of my life. I'll take these currency units. You took those currency units that now represent moments that you will never get back. And you take those currency units and you're punting those into an investment, which is what? Carefully cultivated gambling, really, if we're being honest. And you're trying to take all of the kind of craziness, the noise, and reduce it into some kind of fundamental analysis, which we use the 5 T's, which for those of you that may not have got that kind of nailed, we look at the team, we look at the timing of the project, we look at the technology that they're using or implementing or trying to build, we look at the tokenomic structure, meaning the structure of the currency. And then we ask ourselves about the token. Why does the token exist? Why token? If you can't answer that, or if you could replace that with another token, doesn't need to be there. So you ask yourself this question. And after you satisfied the 5 T's, then you say to yourself, can this asset, XYZ token, achieve use, utility, and wide-scale adoption? You then have enough information to make a decision about whether you want to own that asset, because and I try to say, okay, if something can achieve use, utility, and wide-scale adoption, then I think it's got a chance of doing a 10x, right? 1,000% return. And so then it would be something that I would look at. Now, if you have 100 different projects that could all do a 10x, the problem then becomes that you've spread your resources so thin that even if it does 100x, it doesn't much matter. So I think you want to winnow down your portfolio to something that is, 7 to 10 assets. About how many friends you could manage. Can anybody here manage 30 friends? Really? Like, who has that kind of time? You can manage 7 to 10. Well, not really. Probably 5. I don't know. That's a good question. Of everybody here, how many, honestly, how many friends can you manage at any one time? And Sam, the question of why token, where do you get the answer? You ask yourself that. I'll give you a quick one. Ethereum. Why does Ethereum have a token? Ethereum has a token because that token is used to pay fees to effectuate transactions on the Ethereum network. You need the token to pay for gas to do transactions. If you got to pay to play, right? XRP, yeah, same, got to pay to play. Cardano, pay to play. Doge, it's a meme coin. It doesn't mean anything because it doesn't do anything, but people think it's cool. So 3 to 4. Okay, so think about this. So as you're answering this question about all your friends, yeah, friends, we don't have friends. I don't have any friends. Then you say, okay, how many of these assets can you really manage? And I know that there's this feeling like, well, if I don't own this one, what if I get left behind? If I don't own this one, what if it does? Yeah, what if my aunt gets a sex change and then she's my uncle? Like, what if? It doesn't, you have to manage the amount of, now, if you have the dexterity or some kind, technology and software and all that, or whatever, the combination to manage a bunch of assets, good on you. The reason I have a bunch of assets is that along my trading journey, which has been a long one, sometimes things go from an investment, which is stuff I'm going to hold for a year or longer, looking for that 10x. And the information changes, the team changes, there are discoveries made, milestones were not achieved, things like this. The information materially changes and you decide it's no longer really an investment. Now it goes into the trade category where, like, man, if I can get a double or a triple, I'm taking my money off the table, and I may take all my money, or I may just like let it ride. Take my original investment off the table and then let it ride. There's plenty of projects where I'm letting it ride. Doge is a stupid token that I purchased to let it ride. And I kind of did it on a bet with somebody, which I won that bet because they said it was going to $1 and I said it was not. And there we are. Render is one that I have that I think is actually a not great project, but I did originally think it was a good project. And since their spammy conversion to AI, which I think is just them trying to catch the media cycle, they are not an AI company at all. But anyway, I heard a bunch of douchebags on CNBC talking about it. And I'm like, well, okay, then the fix is in. These guys are going to keep pushing it to dummies. You keep hearing it on CNBC and idiots don't know how to discern what's noise and what's true. So they buy. So I got in it as an investment, but it converted for me. I got in it like around 30 or 40 cents. It ran up to like 250 or something. No. It ran up to 9. I had sold out around $6, $5 or $6. And I just dusted the whole thing off. I was like, I don't believe in it anymore. It's bullshit. I'm out. It got back down to like 50 or 60 cents. I was like, well, on a lark, I'll take some because it was all like way house money. I had a 12X on it. So I put a little bit of profit back in. I kept my 10X off and I put back in about 50 or 60 cents and it's $4. So I'm another, 8.5X. But it's a trade. It's not an investment. This is a shitty company. Period. Full stop. Done. Nope. That's it. So yourself the difference between a trade and investment when you start going, I don't know, man. Like for me, Algorand became yes, nailed. Algorand became a trade, not an investment. I don't think there is a universe, a non-inflationary universe or a non-debasement universe where this project ever sees $3 again. I don't care if if $10 trillion are just poured into the cryptocurrency space tomorrow evening. Algorand ain't seeing $3.23. Now, I don't like to be an absolutist because obviously anything could happen. It could go from being a trade with a crappy kind of half-assed team. They have good developers. They have great code. It's an amazing project. Terrible marketing, terrible public interface. Like all of the things that make a business, they're missing lots of them. So could that change with a couple of hires, with some repositioning, with some partnerships, with some other protocols? Yes, all these things could change. Right now, it's a trade, and that is all. So if I got a double or a triple or a quadruple out of it, I'm out. Deuces. And I won't make any price predictions because this is not the place for that. But there you go. So that's how things like that go. And Lisa, this is not, we're not going to do any of that kind of stuff. That's all. We would do that behind the wall. We're not talking prices or predictions or any of that kind of crap. This is more Tuesdays and Thursdays is about your brain, not about your wallet. It's weird how those two things are quite connected. And yeah, when people get rich, they don't give a shit. I hope I get to the point where I'm so rich I don't give a shit. I don't know where that line is. I guess I have like poor person DNA, so I'm never going to feel rich. So good news. The show must go on. Brandon and I are going to feel poor forever. Matter. And it just doesn't matter. Which probably the reason I have money is because I feel like I'm poor all the time. So I keep it and I don't spend it on stupid shit. All right. So anyway, yes, market's going up. Investments are things that you would hold for a year or more, looking for that hopeful 10X. But again, you've got to do what makes the most sense for you. You've got to take profit on a regular basis. You hear the old adage, no one ever got poor taking a profit. Okay. Let's shift gears. Unless you guys have any other questions that are more general in nature. Do I think Ethereum will scale? No. Scaling Ethereum, this has been used a lot, but it's like taking a Cessna while it's in flight and getting it prepped to fly into space. You think, wait, a Cessna, how would it? Yeah, no, can't, nope. So I don't think Ethereum will ever scale. Everybody there's rich. They don't need to scale. They don't care. If they're going to they've already basically said, we're going to just lay all this on layer 2s to do all the work. which is Optimism and Matic and Arbitrum just crashed. That's one I didn't really. It's funny. Someone had asked me in the chat, like, what do you think about Arbitrum, whatever they spell it, however they pronounce it. I was like, I don't know, man. The team didn't look too strong. That night, it was last week. That night it crashed. Do you remember? That's so funny. Anyway, I didn't make it crash. It just crashed under its own weight because it's a shit show. Crypto's not easy. And when these dudes rush to get technology out, if there's supposed to be a capital C and it's a lowercase c, sometimes it doesn't mean anything. Sometimes it means you lose $150 million. So crypto's not so easy, and smart contracts aren't easy, and Solidity is not easy. It's getting better, but I don't think they'll ever scale. Every single layer, every layer one is far, far superior to Ethereum. They've been talking about upgrades and shit for years, Sam. You can't do it. It's just strapping rockets onto a Cessna. It's too much old, fundamentally flawed technology. And I just don't think they ever get it done. And I don't think they care to. They're rich. They don't care. Tell me this. There's 171 people here. If you woke up with $100 million in your bank account tomorrow, you going into work other than to gloat and just to wear flip-flops and a tank top and a G-string, tell people to go fuck themselves? Who's going to go to work tomorrow? If you have $100 million, you woke up with $100 million bucks. Nailed it. Nothing motivates them. They can say all they want. It's the same thing with Jerome Powell and all these reserve douchebags. They don't really care. It's a hobby for them. They're independently wealthy and they do not care. It is what it is. Scotty, we're not doing any price talk. You just got to think about it. Put yourself in their shoes. Listen, these are smart people, but none of these are like world-changing Stephen Hawking's. Like the closest thing to Stephen Hawking's, I don't even know, Silvio Macaulay, maybe, and he's over at Algorand, and that's a shit show. And you say, okay, well, who are the other like top scientists? Well, that actually code, Tufi Saliba, Dan Tolliver, those guys are over at Hypercycle. Like, who's at Ethereum that gives a shit? Nobody. Who's at the Federal Reserve that gives a shit? Nobody. They just go to luncheons and put out stupid speeches. They not only do they not know what's going on, they don't care that they don't know. It's just about pride. They're just prideful idiots. It is what it is. Humans are humans. AI will do all this so much better, but we're just not there yet. Anyway, turn up and pay. I would buy the company and fire everyone. You're all fired. Go home. Okay. Let's switch this up. Let's talk about implementing game theory. As a friend of mine, we were talking last night about how do it's like, okay, I was trying to explain like game theory is fundamental for thinking. Like it's a system for analysis. And just real quick, as we kind of squirm our way over, I'm not going to go behind the wall. Normally I would go behind the wall and this would all be super secret squirrel stuff. But in today's case, we're going to go ahead and keep kind of banging it out because this is like basic game theory and it's important. And many people don't realize how much it could make life easier. So that's what we're going to deal with. But as we talk about game theory, keep in mind, have a cool little just basic definition. Obviously, everybody here knows what my super easy definition of game theory is, right? SIPG. SIPG. Anyone? In the chat? Anyone? So it's game theory. If you look it up, it's the study of mathematical models of strategic interactions or interdependencies between players in a game, between rational decision makers. And it has all sorts of applications, fields of social science, logic, computer science, evolutionary biology. Go down the list. It turns out that human behavior can be modeled very accurately on the wide scale, especially among rational players. And you think, okay, well, what about non-rational players? Well, if it's non-rational individuals, there's no point trying to think what an irrational person would do because they're irrational. Irrational behavior is erratic. It's sometimes rational, sometimes not. So you just keep it out of the math. You just know that there's a certain amount of irrational bullshit, and that's the way it is. All these meme coin gambling dummies, the Dogecoin dummies, the Bonk dummies, the Pepe dummies, and yes, if you can hear my voice, you're a dummy. If you're investing in it, you're a dummy. There's zero use utility. There is some adoption. It's gambling. Just call yourself a degenerate gambler and move on down the road, which is fine. So, just be honest with yourself. So you don't factor that. What you're doing is you're trying to say, what do rational-minded, logical individuals do in a situation to maximize their own benefits and outcomes, right? Given whatever the structure of those rules is, right? So game theory is this process of modeling those strategic interactions or interdependence between two or more players in a situation containing set rules and outcomes. Remember the former Charlie Munger, who I thought was amazing, even though he thought crypto was garbage. Charlie said that if you show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcomes. And this is like a game theory, like basic premise. So game theory is also used to analyze economic competition, economic phenomena like bargaining, mechanism design, auctions. There's a really cool study about, a matter of fact, Tim Roughgarden has a whole video talking about how the auction systems at eBay were developed over time, the Vickery auction, and all sorts of really cool stuff, and how much game theory went into designing and teasing out those auction structures. But voting theory, experimental economics, political economy, behavioral economics, evolution, many tenets of biological evolution and things like that. So game theory is super important. It's not just like Space Invaders and I'm playing Grand Theft Auto 3. No, that's not what it really means. And there are assumptions. We're always making these grand assumptions, especially in life, right? The assumption in economics, like let's reduce it to what we care about. The assumption in economics is that players are rational and they intend to maximize their own benefits. It's assumed that players within a system or a game are rational and they strive to maximize their payoffs in whatever environment they're in. And this isn't just in economics, but it is especially in economics. And to key in on these things, you look at long run effects, you look at all groups involved, you look at that there are potentially vested interest effects. There are sometimes perverted or perverse incentive models that push people towards moral hazard and things like that. You look at the longer run effects and realize that longer run effects, like a weather system, like breaking like a pool game where you look at the little triangle of balls and you break it, and then obviously 17 sides later, the game looks completely different because short run effects are easier to model and assume than long run effects. And you can be overwhelmed by information, tyranny of choice, and analysis paralysis and all this. So you need a system of thinking, right? And that system of thinking is game theory. And then what gets in the way of that system of thinking is cognitive bias, which we talk about a lot. And that's the tendencies to think in certain ways that lead us to systematic deviations from a standard of rationality or sound judgment. Essentially, why do we make the decisions we make? Some of it's nature and some of it's nurture and some of it's our cultural influences and the way we're indoctrinated and all that kind of stuff. And we're not going to talk so much about cognitive bias today. We're going to focus mostly on, okay, if game theory is so important, how do I actually implement it into my life and have a strategy for that? So that is the crux of our kind of classroom portion of today. So with that.
Hello. You're late.
You're bad at math, but I'm giving you an A+ in confidence.
Just doing what I gotta do.
Extra credit.
Guys, so good. Okay. So Let's see. We should do an inverted WWDD. What would dummies do of DJ and gamblers? Well, I don't want to, because I don't want people going in that direction and starting to think that gambling here's what happens. If you do these kind of gambly plays in the crypto space or in any investment space and it works, you get this weird feedback that you think, oh, this is easy. Crypto's easy. It's like the person that walks into a casino and just, they have like an extra buck and they put it and they win like $4,000. In their mind and for the rest of their life, gambling is just that easy. In gambling, $1 equals 4,000. 4,000 equal, no, they don't. It doesn't equal 16 million if you math it. No. So, and there's a lot, we could go into a whole thing on gambling, which we won't, but you don't want to shift from a fundamental analysis perspective and a game theory perspective to a gambler's perspective. So that's why we don't kind of go down that road. And also, who cares? Who cares what a bunch of DGen gamblers? Does anybody here care if somebody wins at blackjack tonight at the Sands or at the Wynn or at Aria? Does anyone really give a shit if somebody just gets rich in there overnight? It doesn't affect you. And that's, like when it comes to your portfolio and managing your own assets, focus just on you. Don't look at his shoes or her card. None of that stuff matters. Just focus on expanding through all of these tools, your own personal balance sheet. Honestly, it's kind of silly because I think we're broadcasting to like Instagram, but honestly, get the fuck off Instagram. It's a dive, dude. It's a dive where everybody shows you, they take 4,000 pictures and show you their very best one and YOLO, I'm living my best life. Bullshit. Anybody that says living their best life's a fucking liar. No one's living their best life. That doesn't even mean anything. Everybody's living their best life. That's the only one you have. It's so fucking stupid. But people, they tend to look around a lot. Like, oh my God, I've got to have what they have and what the keeping up with the Joneses and all this. And I know this mostly falls on deaf ears because people ain't trying to hear it. Look, we have a whole business. My buddy Eric and I, we have, Drive LA, the rental car company. We have a whole business based on people living their best life, YOLO, all this kind of bullshit. People signaling that they've done something that they haven't. It's all a lie. It's fine. They want to pay for these expensive cars. Great. But we got to be honest with ourselves as if investing for to buy your time back, right? To buy yourself out of the servitude that we fucking live in, where we have to work for other people and trade our life away. If you want to buy that back, you got to be honest with yourself. So it's tricky. And one of the things that helped me many years ago, I listened to a speech. I owe Charlie Munger a lot for my success because the way that I think about investing and the way that I kind of formulated my ideas about game theory and cognitive bias mostly were readjusted by a speech that he gave in 1995 at Harvard. You can go and listen to it. It's great. It's a little bit sketchy, but you can listen to it. It was Charlie Munger at Harvard talking about cognitive bias. And that sent me down the path. But anyway, we're going to talk about now is integrating game theory into your daily life in the next 90 days. It does take 90 days to take something that you're doing in a repetitive way and turn it into a habit. And so today we're going to embark on this kind of journey of how do we integrate game theory into our daily lives over the next, say, 3 months. So that puts us into March, right before the halving, right? How do we let it influence our financial decisions, our social interactions, and all of the kind of stuff in between? Because when you start thinking game theoretically, it affects all of your decision-making, not just your financial decision-making. It affects the way you live your life. It makes you much more efficient at basic decision-making. And so this is more tailored for, let's say the person that's just starting their journey. But if you don't have a framework for finance, this is really good because everybody's starting ground zero. The other cool thing is most people in finance Do not think game theoretically. I mean, we all do to an extent because it's kind of woven into our decision-making prowess, but we don't think about game theory. We don't think about thinking. And so when you take some time and you say, okay, I want to enhance my strategic thinking and decision-making skills, then you got to go to the very base, the basics of game theory and how you make decisions and how a machine might make decisions, a more math-based approach, right? So you start at the beginning. Game theory is not just a system for maths experts and mathematicians or, economists at Harvard or any, that's not what this is. It's a tool for understanding the world around us. And so what I think you do is the first couple of weeks, okay? So let's say weeks 1 and 2, as you're getting into this, this is like our 90-day plan. You look into the basics of game theory and you really study the prisoner's dilemma, right? And this shows how individuals might or might not cooperate, even when it's in their best interest to cooperate, and why that cooperation could actually work against them. And for those of you, I'm not going to go deep into the prisoner's dilemma, but essentially it's the iconic game theory situation where two people are accused of a crime, which they did commit. They committed it as partners, like they stole something or whatever, and they both get locked up and they're in different interrogation rooms. And the basic assumption is, okay, listen, if you both keep quiet, you walk. Now they can't communicate with each other, but if they both just shut their damn mouth, they walk free. However, if one of them talks, they get 1 year, and the person that kept their mouth shut gets 10 years. In the same way that if person B, so Alice and Bob, if Bob talks and Alice does not, Bob has cooperated with the authorities. So, but Alice and Bob have now defected, right? So Bob talks, Bob gets 1 year, Alice gets 10 years. Knowing this, what do you think is the best decision for both Alice and Bob? The best decision is that they talk. They both talk. They both lock in a year because they can't be sure that the other person won't talk. Alice can't be sure Bob won't talk. Bob can't be sure Alice won't talk. The game theoretical best decision was like a Nash equilibrium is that they both talk and they both get 1 year. It's better than risking keeping your mouth shut and getting 10. Does that make sense? And so that's and there's different versions of this story, but that's just an easy way to think about it. So you want to explore this prisoner's dilemma, and you want to really kind of wrap your mind around, well, why is that better? Well, you can reduce all of this to a payoff matrix. So part of your first couple weeks of game theory is learn your prisoner's dilemma, and then explore a simple payoff matrix, which is just like a little square. Matter of fact, I think I have a payoff matrix. I'm almost certain I do. Let me find it. Payoff matrix. There we go. Boom. This is the payoff matrix. Now this is for people at a stop sign, stopping or proceeding, the other person stopping or proceeding. It's two drivers. Don't worry about that. But what you can reduce out of this is that you can take any situation, no matter how it might seem confusing, you can reduce it to math. And you can say, okay, if driver 1 does this, they get think of it as like value points. It's not like a currency, but like value points. Okay, this is a +5, where if they do it, it's a -5. If they do this. So in this way, you can reduce very complex theming situations into math. And then decision-making becomes a lot easier because there's no emotional component, right? Okay, so we start with understanding a payoff matrix and understanding the prisoner's dilemma. Then you're thinking, okay, next 3 to 4 weeks, well, weeks 3 and 4, let's start thinking strategically. So as you progress, and the cool thing is there are just a crap load of really good videos, like on YouTube. There's tons of good information on game theory. Just go game theory basics, game theory 101. There's tons of stuff. So you're not going to have any problem finding this stuff. So the next thing is focus on strategic thinking. How do you make better decisions, right? Less emotional, more pragmatic decisions. And are the decisions that you currently make in your best interest, or are they just easy? Sometimes easy seems, well, it's easiest. Yeah, but that's not maybe your best interest. You have to look further down the timeline. So you're going to start analyzing different types of games. So in game theory, you're going to hear terms like zero-sum games, cooperative games, iterative strategies. Investing is a series of non-zero-sum, sometimes cooperative, mostly iterative games. You're like, what the shit? Well, you need to familiarize yourself. Again, we're not going to do it in 15 minutes, but you need to familiarize yourself with zero-sum, non-zero-sum, cooperative games, iterative games, and you're going to apply these to simple personal decisions, not even financial stuff. Forget about all that. Just simple personal decisions, like which lane you're in at the stoplight, or which line you go into the movie theater so you don't get stuck behind the dude fumbling for his credit card or whatever, or like people that, are going to order a lot, or people with a bunch of kids, and like you start, okay, but bang, I just saved 4 minutes. I saved 5 minutes. It creates in basic life decisions, a time arbitrage, right? Arbitrage is finding something that's worth $5 and buying it for $2 and then selling it and keeping the $3 spread, right? Well, there's all kinds of arbitrage. And you start to notice these things, these opportunities, the more you study game theory. And they help you. I give you an example of how I get a 2-week vacation every single year. I get a 2-week vacation for free. 2 weeks is a long time. So what I do is, theoretically, I drive about 10 to 12 miles over the speed limit, which is about the maximum, not in the school zones, but anywhere else. I always theoretically do this. I'm not admitting to crimes. But theoretically, were I to do this, that's typically 20 to 30% of the speed limit, because most speed limits are what? Somewhere between 35 and 65, right? So it's between 20 and 30%. So I'm saving 20 to 30% of all the time I'm in my car. And if you think about in different cities might have different things. In Los Angeles, we spend a lot of time in our cars, right? If you spend an hour a day in your car and you save 20 to 30%, that means you're putting, anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes each day back into your life. So you math that out. Okay, so if I'm saving I did the math, and because it's like as much time as you spend in your car in LA, it's like 360 hours a year that I get back. Different cities, different rules. Okay, that's 168-hour week, and that includes like sleepy time. So basically, what's your awake time? 18 hours a day, maybe. So some of you Rip Van Winkle's 12. But anyway, I'm getting 14 to 15 full days. I'm getting, just by doing that, I mean, theoretically, right? Because I'm not admitting to a crime, but theoretically, I'm getting 2 weeks back. I now have 2 weeks, 300 plus hours to think about stuff while other people are just stuck in traffic. Hopefully they're not thinking about stuff while they're stuck in traffic, because that makes them terrible drivers, or texting or doing any other stupid shit that causes all these accidents. Everybody lives in their own damn bubble, and they have zero peripheral awareness of like the whole world. But anyway, so it seems silly, right? There's all sorts of other little kind of time scraping mechanisms, and you can cobble together like a month. I'm telling you, you waste enough time that you can time arbitrage a month back. Think about that for a second. A whole damn month. Oh, I need my vacation. You have a vacation. It's sitting there in wastefulness. Go and get it back by efficiency. Well, understanding and applying these concepts to your personal decisions and like to your habits and things like that, you can scrape time back. Remember, that means like every decade you get a year, almost a full year back. You can get a damn professional degree. So it's how you use that time. Yes, this is for educational purposes only. I'm not telling anybody to speed. Here, let me go back to this picture. Yes, no one should speed. No one. Dude. Yeah. Follow the rules. By the way, that has nothing to do with health, safety. Zero. It had to do with oil and gas management during World War times. Speed limit. Now, in a school zone, yes, because you don't want to run over little kids. So go slow, stupid, and get off your phone and stop fucking texting. Soccer moms, you know who you are. Get off your phones. I'm a soccer mom, so I can text. No, you can't. What are you doing? You're trying to text someone that you're going to get home and watch Real Housewives? Shut up. Anyway, we went down that path. Okay, let's talk about game theory in finance. So that's going to be like the next thing you're going to study. So now we're thinking weeks 5 and 6. Okay, delve into the world of finance and how it kind of like your version of finance. Like it might just mean managing your household, right? Which is income, expenses, assets, liabilities, and what's left is cash flow. Okay, you need to know that pretty well. In the chat, tell me who here has done a personal balance sheet in the last month. Maybe 1 or 2 of you. There's 163 people here. I bet 5 have actually done their personal balance sheet. I just had to do mine yesterday. So we're trying to add a couple cars. We had a couple wrecks. We're adding a couple cars. Whatever. Good for you. Sweet. Good for you. Good. For those of you that do it. For those of you that don't, man. You should especially be doing it now. We're about to go into a bull run, bro. Anyway. Hopefully some of you guys are thinking about that. But when you are diving now into the world of finance and managing your own assets and remember, you converted your time into money, currency units, you punted those currency units into investment markets. You better see how game theory applies to markets and those investments. So you need to engage in simulations and understand other players' market behaviors, the beauty pageant. You need to understand your own investment strategies, how other people are investing. You need to know how they invest. Most of them, like in traditional markets, through passive indexation. You need to understand passive indexation. You need to understand the effects of that and what a unwind in that might look like and what that might look like for markets and what higher and lower interest rates might do for the perception of markets, right? And this leads to better strategic thinking, which leads to better financial outcomes for you because you can more efficiently and in a more educated way guess on the beauty pageant winner, right? We're all at the beauty pageant. Okay. Next, weeks 7 and 8, you want to focus on everyday applications, right? Game theory is not just theoretical. It is practical. You can use it everywhere and you apply the concepts in your daily life, in your personal relationships, how you negotiate with family and friends, or how you negotiate with people you don't even know. Even at a store, you realize you can negotiate everything, right? Just because someone has a price tag on something, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, you don't want to be the guy, like I don't go shopping with one of my friends because he brings coupons. And I'm like, don't do the coupons, dude. Just tell them that you've seen the coupons and they'll extend you the coupon. They don't need to scan shit. Anyway, I don't go shopping with them because it's a exercise in both futility and frustration. Everything is a negotiation, everything. And if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So the formula or the way that you negotiate with your family and friends and people at a store or at a whatever, it's about analyzing situations through the lens of game theory and understanding all of these little strategies that we have at our disposal and understanding how boxed in the other side is. Like, you negotiate to a point where it's a win-win. Everything in life is not zero sum. Very few things are actually zero sum. That's a good one. Oh yeah, asking for a military discount is a great one. But just in life in general, you can find win-win situations all over the place where both of you pay less, they get more. There's always a way to structure it, right? Okay, so that's kind of the idea, is that challenge yourself to be a deeper thinker, right? And now we move into this idea of more advanced concepts. So this is like weeks 9 and 10 now. Explore more advanced concepts like the principle of Nash equilibrium, okay, and evolutionary game theory. And these ideas are going to challenge the way that you think deeper and kind of give you, I guess, like a more kind of complex understanding of some of the nuanced situations in business or economics. And you can, look at different case studies and things like that. It's actually really cool. Every negotiation is game theory, but there's some really big ones that are really cool to kind of study, especially like companies competing, especially oil companies doing all the kind of bullshitty shenanigans to stick it to the rest of us. Weapons negotiations, nuclear weapons negotiations between governments and stuff. There's some really cool stuff. Anyway, and this will give way. And by the way, a Nash equilibrium is a situation where everybody's made their best decision based on everybody else's best decision, and there's nothing else you can do to improve your situation based on nobody else being able to do anything to improve their situation. And this is the best state you can reach, which is a Nash equilibrium. That's the proverbial win-win. Okay, then you have to implement this stuff. And this is kind of like weeks 11 and 12. So we're, about 3 months in. Now we're like looking at March. You take everything you've learned in game theory and you think about applying it directly to a real life scenario. Like you really say, you develop a strategy for some personal issue, some, community issue, whatever, using game theory as your guide completely for the entire approach. And this will be a project because it's like where you're really saying like, okay, I'm not going to just use game theory here and there. I'm going to use game theory every single step of the way. And this will not only test your kind of understanding of what you've been learning over the past few months, but it will also show you how these concepts are directly applicable to the world around you if you have not already used them, right? So apart from a structured plan, I would encourage everyone to engage in kind of weekly discussion. We talk about game theory a lot, but if you don't want to hang out with us, I don't give a shit. Go hang out wherever you want. But you need to be implementing this stuff into your thoughts and your observations. Watch videos on YouTube, participate in quizzes, solidify your understanding. Learning is an ongoing process, not a destination. You're not like, you don't get somewhere and you're like, I've learned. Not really. You're constantly learning. You're constantly kind of slowly leveling up your kind of fundamental understanding of these concepts. So in about 90 days, and there's some other reasons for that as far as like humans and like how 90 days can take a habit and make it into like a permanent kind of sustainable process in your brain. But it takes about 90 days to get to that habit forming kind of threshold. And so in this 90 days, you're not just learning game theory, you're gaining a new perspective on the way you make decisions. You're rethinking the way you think, right? And so you will see the world differently. You will see opportunities that you never saw before. You're like, oh crap. You'll see like the $5 egg priced at $1, and you're like, oh man, there's $4 left in that egg. Yes, there is. You'll see time arbitrage. You'll see intellectual arbitrage opportunities. You'll see financial arbitrage opportunities. This whole idea of recognizing arbitrage comes from game theory, or it evolves out of it. And so this is probably the one thing that you could do. One thing, that's several things. 90 days of learning. If you commit to this, which none of you will, because you're not paying for it. If you were pay for it, if I did a 90-day course on game theory, you'd all pay for it. But for those of you who want to, it's free. You can do it free. You can implement this, and it has immediate benefits, like immediate, in your financial life. Some of you will, some of you won't. I don't know. But I would urge everyone to at least take a gander. It will change the way you think, and you'll start realizing. I get a lot of people that argue with me on financial stuff, and I'm like, okay, what you do whatever you want to do, buddy. Almost always they'll come back and they'll go, oh man, yeah, I didn't think about, or people be like, oh, you got a crystal ball. I don't have a crystal ball, man. It's just that when you look at a game and you know what the rules are, the outcomes are obvious. The outcomes are fucking obvious and predetermined mostly. And Charlie Munger had it dead nuts right, which is why he was a freaking multi-billionaire, and why he was the real brains at Berkshire Hathaway, if we're being honest. And it's that when you know what the incentives are in a system, the outcomes are fucking obvious. It is not, it looks like a crystal ball to dummies, but to everyone else, this is the only way things could have gone. I was investing in AI years ago because this is the only way things have gone. It's the only way they could have gone. It's beyond obvious. So you just have to, have the groundwork to feel, confident enough in your decision making to actually put money down on those bets. A lot of people see these things and they're like, crap, I saw that. Matter of fact, there's a cognitive bias, hindsight bias. In hindsight, everything looks like it was definitely going to happen. It's so obvious that this was going to happen. So obvious. No, if it was so obvious, everyone would have gone in on it, and they didn't. So when you get to the point where for you, it's so obvious how an outcome is, it's not gambling anymore. Not for you. Not for you. Anyway, Naksu Cow. Remember that from, no, nothing? No Van Damme fans here? Naksu Cow. He did like that. Okay. Anyway, let's call it a day. Stay in school. Don't do drugs. Don't do anything my poor insolvent drunk strung out on meth grandmother or Brandon wouldn't do. We will be back tomorrow for Digital Investor number 55. We number them now. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
If you're an accredited investor and you want in on angel, seed round or early round equity and token opportunities in the artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency space, schedule an interview at nickblacknext.com. In life, you can either be really good, really lucky, or just be first. Being first is so much easier. Schedule a digital private client interview today at nickblacknext.com.